So France versus the Springboks has just come to a close, and what a way to close out the quarterfinals of the Rugby World Cup. Another close game, a thriller going down to the wire, and the Boks winning it 29 points to 8 to now progress to the semi-final to take on England, the side they bet in the Rugby World Cup final in 2019. But in this review, we'll be looking through all the key moments of this fixture, the brilliant players who stepped up in this performance, and also a few of the stats along the way of what happened for this game. But I have to say, start of the match, fast-paced, already scoring a try within the 4th minute was France with Cyril Bailly crossing the line. He actually managed to score himself 2 tries throughout this contest, one in the 4th minute and then one in the 31st. The other try scorer for France was Pieter Malvaca, scoring in the 22nd. So actually all front row for France scoring tries, which is extremely surprising when you look through at some of the class that they have in their backline, whether that's Dupont, Jalibert. I thought he was sensational throughout this game. Damien Penaud was quiet out on the wing. Belbari, Ramos, all these options. Yet it's the big boys at the front who managed to cross the try line. For South Africa, they managed to score themselves 4 tries. First of which scored by Kutle Arendse. That was in the 8th minute. So firing straight back from conceding the try to being able to get their own. And that was actually a trend that we saw throughout this game. One side would score, the other would fire straight back, keep themselves in the game. And it was just an awesome game with a lot of lead changes throughout. The next try was scored by Damien Dialendi. That was in the 18th minute, a bit of individual brilliance with his run through, first of all, to get them within a few meters, and then was back up to his feet, ready to charge at the line, and he did score himself his try. Then the third try of the contest, it was Cheslin Kolbe in the 26th minute. Now, I should mention, Cheslin Kolbe, he didn't just score a try, though. He also charged down a conversion from one of the French tries. Now, when you look at that score, and you realise a conversion's worth 2, that was a game changer for Cheslin Kolbe, but he wasn't the last man to score. It was Eben Etzebeth, scored it in the 67th minute. The Springboks were down by 6. That brought them back up to being ahead by 4 after also getting the penalty over. And in the end, they walk away with that 1-point win. But a lot of players stepping up, like I mentioned. In terms of the leading stats, most tackles were made by Franco Mostert, with 14 made throughout the contest. Also, Cheslin Kolbe having the 126 metres carried. For me, he was the man of the match. I think they ended up giving it to Bongium Benambi, but I think with what Cheslin Kolbe was able to do, scoring himself the try, also charging down that kick, having running metres, tackling machine, he certainly could have been up there as a chance. And the most carries over the gain line was Pieter Malvaca, another player for France who really stepped up to the occasion. But unfortunately for him, his whole side weren't quite able to do the same. But throughout this game, the Springboks, they did lack possession, sitting with 59% of the ball going in favour of France and 63% of territory in favour of the host nation. But even with that, South Africa was still able to have themselves a lot of running metres. They did miss 42 tackles throughout the contest, so that is something that they will look at as maybe a bit of an adjustment that needs to be made before their next game up against the English, who did manage to get themselves the win over the Fijians. But South Africa at line-out time, 100% accuracy. Same with France. We actually saw 17 line-outs, all successfully claimed by the side. They did have the throw. We saw a few shaky scrums from France. Actually, 4 of their scrums didn't go their way, which was hurting them. And we actually saw a mark taken by Damien Willemse inside of his 22 that he decided that they did want to go for the scrum rather than the kick. A real rarity in the game of rugby. I believe the first time and probably the only time that we will see that happen throughout the Rugby World Cup. For the tackle stats, 163 tackles made by the Springboks, missing those 42 like I mentioned. And then for France, 92 tackles made and 12 tackles missed for the French. But players who stepped up, Bongium Benambi did get himself the man of the match performance. Like I mentioned, Cheslin Kolbe, he was very strong. For South Africa, I also feel like Damien Dialendi did extremely well throughout this fixture. And then that impact, and a massive impact it was for Kwagga Smith off the bench. The man just seems to know how to win his side a game late in a fixture, and he did brilliantly here, getting a couple turnovers along the way. Dion Fourie, I also thought, was pretty strong off the bench when given the opportunity. We did just see the 1 yellow card in this game as well. I should mention it was Eben Etzebeth for a bit of head contact on Yui Antonio. It did remain as a yellow, but that is now the first yellow card that we have seen for the Springboks throughout this whole Rugby World Cup. There were 6 penalties against both sides. I'll be honest, I thought Ben O'Keefe did a pretty decent job with the whistle. I know that on the live stream chat, some people weren't happy with certain decisions, but in a game like that, where you got 2 of the top 4 sides around the world going head-to-head, playing fast-paced rugby, in the breakdown, it's extremely hard to call, but Ben O'Keefe, I still feel, didn't do too badly at all. And at the end of the day, with a game this close, it was only going to take one little opportunity, one line break, one chance for either of these sides to walk away with the victory. So overall, I think a very solid game to close out the quarterfinals. But nonetheless, that is going to be the end of this very short review, ladies and gentlemen. We will have our Springboks lineup prediction video coming out in the near future alongside when their lineup is announced. We will be letting you know, and then also our live commentary for the games as they are taking place. But thank you all very much for tuning in. If you did enjoy, be sure to leave a like and subscribe, and let me know what you thought of the game in the comments down below. And I will see you all for the next one.